Well, hello and welcome to the June 8th meeting of the Rotary Club of Columbus. It is so good to look out and see all of you here. Now, let's be honest. Who among you kind of thought about skipping today because of the weather? Well, I must admit that I did consider skipping today just so I didn't have to leave the house and get in the rain, but I just had a feeling you may notice. And so I decided to come on in, but it's great to see all of you. And for those of you watching online, a warm welcome to you as well. And now would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag for the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like to ask Mike Smajd to please come up and bring us today's invocation in accordance with his faith tradition.
Thank you, President Lori. You know, when I got asked last week to give the invocation, I thought I should reflect on it a little bit. And I looked at, and I'm sure you're aware of, the purpose of Rotary. And one of our purposes, if you read the purpose statement, is to promote peace throughout the world. And so, in view of what's happening in the world today, I thought a prayer of peace would be appropriate. So please pray with me. Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, your pure light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Don't forget the cans.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And now it's my pleasure to call on Melody Trimble to bring us to introduce today's visiting Rotarians and guests. We will not have news. Melody, you didn't know that, so you were waiting. But if you would please introduce our visitors and our guests.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to introduce a guest of Ian Bond, Sophia Mims. She is his granddaughter, and she is adorable. Where is she at? She's so cute. There she is, waving. Absolutely adorable. She's playing with the puppy. So there you go. Also, we have a guest of Adrian Chester. We have Vinton Copeland, and he's the pastor of Powell Baptist Church in Tallahassee. And he's also a firefighter. Woo! Thank you. So glad you're here. And Grace Burton Edwards has brought her husband, Taylor Burton Edwards, and he's the director of Ask UMC. So welcome and glad you're here. And finally, our Rotarian Tracy Sawyers has two guests. First is Cassie Myers. She's the director of marketing and public relations for Pizzold Management. And also Gwen Rogers is the VP of People and Culture with DNA Technical Fabrics. Thank you, Madam President.
Wonderful. Thank you, Melody, and a welcome to all of our guests. And as it turns out, we will have a newscast today, so I'm super excited to say that Cedric Hill II swam in to bring us today's news.
Good afternoon, and here's a look at a few headlines today. Gas prices continue to rise while Georgia prices remain at a national low. Compared to a week ago, Georgians are paying 16 cents more for a gallon of gas for regular unleaded gas. As of Monday morning, the average price for a gallon of gas in Georgia is $4.29 a gallon. Now, Georgia remains the state with the lowest gas prices, mostly because of our governor's suspension of the gas tax, while California has the highest prices at $6.30 a gallon. Aren't you all thankful we don't live in California? The City of Auburn is hosting Summer Night Downtown Art Walk in the Entertainment District this Friday from 6 to 10 p.m. It's a free event that features work from local and regional artists, live music, merchant specials, children activities, and a culinary contest. So if you're free this Friday and want to go hang out in Auburn, that's something cool that you can do. Your weather forecast for today, there are storms throughout the day up until 2 o'clock p.m. with a high of 90 and a low of 72 and a wonderful 94% humidity. One last good news story for today. A Columbus couple made waves in the news on Saturday. Katie and Zach Watson had an extra ticket to the Garth Brooks concert in Birmingham. And they had an extra ticket and their friend got sick and couldn't go. And so as they're in their Uber on the way to the concert, they learned that their Uber driver also really loves Garth Brooks. And so they offered her this ticket, and it was a cool story that they all got to go to this concert together. Can you imagine driving an Uber, thinking you're about to drop somebody off, and then go do more Uber rides, and the next thing you know, you're at a concert with these people, so of a person that you love. Just thought that was a cool story to share with you all. Enjoy the meeting and the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Cedric. Glad we didn't miss that story. Now, as you know, one of my favorite moments each week is when we recognize and introduce a military guest. And so it's my pleasure today to call on Dick Nurnberg to introduce today's Colonel Ralph Puckett, Jr. Soldier of the Week.
President Laurie, fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure today to introduce you, or to introduce to you, Staff Sergeant Michelle Castillo-Campusano. She is originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And she lived there up until she graduated from high school, at which time she moved to New Orleans to attend Loyola University, but it was sort of expensive. So after a year, she decided to join the Army. She went through basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and after that, she was stationed with field artillery out at Fort Bliss, Texas, where it was too hot and too dry, so she decided to come to Georgia, and she came here to be with the 199th Infantry Brigade for a while as a personnel NCO, a human resources NCO, and now she is with WINSEC, the Western Hemisphere Institute of Security and Economic Cooperation. Yeah, I got that right. Where she is a personnel or a human resources, I'm too old for that, NCO, and she's also an instructor. She teaches in the faculty development course for foreign and U.S. instructors, and she teaches in both English and Spanish, so I am in awe. She lives on Fort Benning with her giant schnauzer, and when she travels, sometimes they go together, but not by air. Sergeant Castillo, on behalf of all of our members, I want to thank you and all of your fellow soldiers for your service and for what you do for us here in Columbus, Georgia, and we have some things for you to remember us by. We have a challenge coin, and so you don't want to get caught without that. We have a certificate showing that you are the Colonel Ralph Puckett, Jr. Soldier of the Week.
Thank you.
We have a book by Colonel Puckett, Words for Warriors, that is inscribed to you. And it was presented to you today, given by Betsy Covington in honor of Jeannie Martin Puckett, Ralph's wife. And the boss. Ralph calls her the boss. And we have for you a passport to the arts for you and a guest to the River Center, for two people to the River Center for the Performing Arts, the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, to the paid exhibits at the National Infantry Museum, Columbus State University Theater Department, and the Springer Opera House. So you have a lot of things to do from now on.
Thank you so much.
And thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for the invite, the amazing food and company, and I would like to say thank you to all of you for giving us support to WINSEC and also the Fort Benning community. Thank you.
Staff Sergeant Castillo, what a pleasure it is to have you here, and we want you to take back to all the men and women who serve alongside you our sincerest gratitude for all that you do to keep us safe. So thank you. You know, it's always a good day at Rotary when we welcome and introduce a new Rotarian. And so it's my pleasure today to call on this Rotarian is so special. We have two people introducing her. Chuck Hecht and Dickie Saunders are going to introduce our newest Rotarian.
Thank you. The truth is, Dr. Sheikha Shaw was supposed to do it. It takes Dickie and I both for her. So she was not able to be here today. Christina Vogler is our new member. Christina's been here for a while. People know her around town. She has just changed jobs to currently the new Business Director of Development at NA1G2 Commercial Real Estate. She was formerly the Executive Director at the Oaks at Grove Park Senior Living, which is a 24/7 job, as y'all know. The Senior Director of the Alzheimer's Association, which most of us got to know her through the Alzheimer's Association. Graduate of the University of Florida, and her son graduated from the University of Alabama as a very good football player, unfortunately. Married to Ron for 41 years. She has 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. Dickie will present you with your pen. That's all right, we're good. And this is your certificate.
Thank you.
And welcome to Rotary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to join you all. I actually was a member of the North Georgia Rotary many, many years ago for quite some time and was always a little jealous of what a big crowd you drew here. So I'm very much looking forward to having the time now to get involved and get to know each and every one of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Christina, we're so excited to have you as part of our club. And as you probably know, this club has a very long and rich history of service in our community, much like you do. And we, in fact, are club number 200 out of 35,000 clubs around the world. And so we just look forward to, for those of us who don't know you, getting to know you and serving alongside you. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call on Amber Clark to bring us a special announcement regarding Career Day.
Sorry, a little short there. So I'm so excited to report that we have about a 74% commitment for the Career Day that's going to happen next week and the week after. I also have some good news. We have 7 more slots ready. So I know I've got at least 7 people in this room that can sign that sheet over there with Julie as they walk out. But I do want to say a special thanks for everybody who has already signed up, and I know that some of you have signed up at multiple schools, and we really appreciate that. We understand it takes time and commitment to do that, so thank you. And I just want to reiterate, you know, we all know, working with many of our community organizations, that educating our youth, providing support, and providing opportunities for the future is really the cure to violence and all other things that we see going on in this community. So I encourage you to invest your time in this and present these opportunities to our youth in our local community. So thank you.
So Amber, are there any specific areas you're looking for? Like if somebody were on the fence and you said, but we really need a fire chief, or we really need...
That would be good. No, but seriously, anybody. We definitely want some diversity, and I think we've got a great sense of that. You just never know what our youth is interested in, and they never really get a chance to see, I think, enough of the diversity that we have in this community. So anybody, I think anybody should sign up, whether you work for a community organization or one of our local corporate businesses. I would accept all people.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. I only have a couple of other announcements. Our next Zoom Rotary Happy Hour will be next Thursday from 6 to 8, and I encourage you all to attend. And then lastly, it's that time of year. We are taking pictures for the new directory for 22-23. believe it or not. And so if you are a new member and you need a picture or you would just like to have your picture updated, please see Jim Cawthorn in the back after the meeting today. And Jim told me that he has put on his skinny lens today. And so it may be your best opportunity to have your photo taken. So joining me at the head table today is Mike Smajd, who brought us today's invocation. And now it's my pleasure to call on a special guest, Daniel Hoard, who happens to be the son-in-law of past President Joey Loudermilk. Daniel's going to introduce today's speaker. Daniel?
Thank you so much, President Lori, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Chief Sal Scarpa has served in the fire service for over 31 years. The last 2 years as the fire chief and EMA director for Columbus, Georgia. He holds an associate degree in fire science, a bachelor's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in leadership studies. He is a graduate of the National Fire Executive Officer Program, a credentialed fire officer by the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and a graduate of the International Association of Fire Chiefs Fire Service Executive Development Institute. He is the proud father of 2 grown boys, and he lives in Columbus with his dog Zorro, who everyone in the department is scared of. When taking the lead of our department 2 years ago, Chief Scarpa brought to our city a wealth of knowledge, education, and certifications our department had never seen before. But more importantly, he brought our department leadership, accountability, and a voice for our personnel that has transformed our department in a short period of time. It is my great pleasure to serve under and to introduce to you Chief Sal Scarpa.
Thank you, Chief. Now, before I get started, if any of you do not know Chief Hoard, please take the opportunity to get to know him. It is a privilege for me to work with him, and beside him, he's an incredible young man. Mr. President, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today. This is not my first presentation here in Columbus, but this is certainly the largest group I've had the privilege of presenting to, and I want to leave some time at the end for some questions. So I will share a brief PowerPoint with you all about the fire department here in Columbus, who we are, what we do, and what we have going on, and then I will invite you all to ask any questions. I won't go through a whole lot of my bio. You have that information already. But I've been in the fire service for about 31 years now, a little bit more, and I don't want to say I've seen everything yet, but I'm getting pretty close. I'm privileged to be here in Columbus and to serve as your Fire and EMS Chief and EMA Director. Coming down to Columbus, I spent the last 25 years in the Kansas City region, serving fire departments up in that area. It's a different pace of life down here. It doesn't snow down here, which I'm very grateful for. And the folks here are genuine and compassionate, and I'm very excited about that. I want to tell you a little bit about our organization. I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I can't see that far. So I'm fortunate in my organization that I'm surrounded by individuals who are incredibly talented. I get a lot of kudos for the fire department, but the truth is it's not me doing the work, it's the folks around me that make me look good. And Chief Hoard is certainly one of those. So there on the screen you'll see that's my executive staff. I'm surrounded by a cache of executive staff personnel that are just incredible, and I'm very fortunate to have fallen into that position. I work a lot with organizations around the country in the fire service and some around the world, and not every chief has the level of commitment that I have for my staff and the level of expertise and knowledge that I have in my staff. So I'm very fortunate in that regard, and they serve our organization and this community very well. So the mission of the fire department is very simple. It's fairly long there on the screen, but we're here to serve the community. We're here to provide the resources that the community needs to fill the gap where others can't. I tell people all the time, people talk about public safety. When people think of public safety, it's police, fire, and EMS. Well, we have 2 of those things, and I love our folks in the police department. We have great partnerships with those men and women. But our role is to provide fire and EMS services for the community, as well as a bunch of other things which I'm going to share with you that you may or may not be aware of. So who we are, we're 14 fire stations. Columbus Fire and EMS is 14 fire stations spread out over 220 square miles, serving the city of Columbus and the citizens of Muskogee County, all the residents, businesses, and transient population that come through here, and our military partners. And thank you for your service. We are very fortunate. We have about just under 400 personnel. We're authorized staff of 383 personnel. I brag all the time that we are currently the largest department in the city, staffed. Some of our other partners are actually authorized for more people, but right now we have the most staff on the department. We are what is called an all-hazards agency. We provide service to any type of response. Because of who we are and where we are located and the size that we are the largest entity around in terms of fire and EMS service until you get to Atlanta. And because of that, a lot of the agencies that surround us are great agencies. They're smaller and don't quite have the resources that we have. And so we have to be able to provide for all the other things that some of the other departments perhaps can't provide because they simply don't have the resources. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But we are also an accredited agency. We're accredited by the Center for Public Safety Excellence. We are one of about 300 accredited agencies in the United States. There are just over 35,000 fire departments in the United States. We are one of about 300 that are accredited. So that immediately puts us in a very elite group. In addition to that, we are an ISO Class 1 agency. ISO is your Insured Services Organization rating. The Insurance Services Organization rates communities on a scale from 1 to 10. And they evaluate things like your fire service, your water supply, your dispatch service. And we are, with 1 being the highest rating, we are an ISO Class 1. Of the 40-something thousand entities that ISO rates, there are less than 1,200 that are ISO Class 1. And of all the fire departments in the United States that are both ISO Class 1 and accredited fire agencies, there are less than 100. And your fire department is in the top 1/10 of 1% of all fire departments in the United States. I'm very proud of that, very proud of our personnel for that. So I say we're a world-class organization. We run approximately 43,000 calls for service last year, fire, EMS, and other entities. We do the vast majority of our calls are medical in nature. About 80% are medical in nature. Most people don't know that. We staff 13 fire engines, 6 ladder trucks, and 2 squad trucks out of the 14 stations that we run. We are spread out over 3 battalions. On the 220 square miles, we have 3 battalions, A, B, and C, 3 squads as well. We have 12 advanced life support ambulances servicing the city. 6 of them belong to us. 6 of them belong to our private partners that we partner with. And so you'll see those folks running around. Those constitute the bulk of the organization that you see out on the street today on any given day. And so how do we do what we do? Well, it's very simple. I'm surrounded by great people. And I'm very fortunate in our organization that we have people in our department who care about this community and who care about providing the very best service to our community. So that's kind of our organizational chart. I serve at the pleasure of the mayor. My boss is the mayor, Mayor Skip Henderson. I'm very fortunate to have him as my boss. He gives us great support, as well as does the city council, our city manager, and most of our city, I should say all of our city departments that we work with. But our organization is broken out into basically 5 large divisions. Community Risk Reduction Division is one of the divisions that's very engaged with our community. They do all of our inspections of all of our buildings in our community, engage with new businesses coming into town to make sure their sprinkler systems, alarm systems, and such are in place. This division is responsible for engaging with our citizens and making sure that they have the resources that they need to be fire safe. And it's not just fire safe, it's all around safety. So we do things like water rescue. We do things like making sure you have carbon monoxide detectors in your home. We install fire alarm systems, fire detectors in your home, smoke detectors if you don't have one. They manage our social media platform. They do fire inspections, fire investigations. We investigate by state law every fire that happens in the city of Columbus. And so we have an investigation division as well. And they're also responsible for analyzing our risk as an organization and as a community. We are not just at risk from fire. We are at risk from medical challenges. We have all kinds of risks that impact our community, weather-related risk, terrorism-related risk, and so forth. So this division is responsible for analyzing that and putting together plans in place for how we are going to address those things. So that's our Community Risk Reduction Division. Emergency management is what you would commonly think of when you think of tornadoes and tornado sirens. Emergency Management Division has been very active over the past couple of years, engaged in our pandemic response and leading that effort with our partners across the city. I know Melody is here somewhere. I can't see her, but she's certainly one of our key partners at St. Francis Hospital and Piedmont and others who work with us throughout this pandemic and continue to work with us throughout this pandemic. Our Emergency Management Division also houses our Emergency Operations Center, which is a technological wonder, one of the finest in the state of Georgia, I must say, that we house at our headquarters building here in downtown Columbus. So again, our Emergency Management Division also does tornado siren maintenance, manages our drone program. We have several drones, and volunteer coordination. As you can imagine, if we had a significant disaster in our community, there would undoubtedly be a mass outpouring of volunteers to support our community, and that is all managed through our Emergency Management Division. The Health and Safety Division of our department is very active. We are very concerned not only with the health and safety of our members, but the health and safety of our members after they retire. So I find the fire service a very fulfilling career. I've been doing this for a long time, but I know when it's my time to retire, I want to be able to enjoy a long, happy, healthy retirement. And so our Health and Safety Division works with our firefighters to ensure not only do they have the equipment and resources and capabilities that they need to be safe while they're on their job, but that when they retire, we're doing everything that we can today to prevent them from things like such as cancer and PTSD, which is a significant problem in the fire service. Our Health and Safety Division is also responsible for quality assurance and quality improvement, as well as our organizational accreditation, which is coming up next year, and the management of our data. We harvest and produce a lot of data as an organization. We are a data-driven entity, and so they're responsible for that as well. The Operations Division is the largest part of our organization. This is where the bulk of our people reside. This is where you'll see your fire trucks, your ambulances, and the people are operating in the street. You meet them at the grocery store. Hopefully you never see them coming to your house, but when they do show up at your house, they're usually the people you want to see. Daily emergency operations, they handle all types of incidents, whether it's a car wreck, a fire, a medical emergency, a building collapse, someone drowning in the river, or any other type of catastrophe you can imagine is managed by our Operations Division. Again, this is the bulk of the people, the firefighters that you'll see out in the street. They coordinate all of our apparatus and personnel assignments on a daily basis. You can imagine with 383 personnel, 14 stations spread out over 220 square miles, there's a lot of coordination goes into that effort. They manage all of our incidents, including our special operations, which again includes our water rescue, our hazardous materials response, our technical rescue, which is rope rescue, confined space rescue, trench rescue, and our dive operations. We have a fully functioning dive operation team here in Columbus, and one of the best in the Southeast, by the way. Our Resource Management Division, which Chief Horde is the deputy chief over and does a tremendous job. We have a lot of stuff as a fire department. We have a lot of trucks, we have a lot of facilities, we have a lot of equipment, and that takes someone and a team of folks to manage that. And Chief Horde's division manages all of that. We have a lot of contracts that have to be managed with a lot of outside vendors and a lot of MOUs with agencies that are represented here in this room and within the local government. We have fire and fleet facilities that have to be taken care of. We have personnel services. We're constantly bringing on new people, and we're discharging people that are retiring through the organization. So that is a very fluid department. Technology management, logistics, and contract administration, as I mentioned. We have a training division that does exactly what you might expect it would do, manages all the training for our 383 personnel, not only as they first come into the organization, because we provide all the basic training for our firefighters, but their ongoing and continuing education is supported by our training division. We have one of the finest training staffs in the state of Georgia or anywhere in the Southeast, and I've been very privileged, like I said, to work with agencies around the country, and I can speak very highly of our training staff. They manage recruitment efforts, certification and licensure, all of our exercise management within our department with our external partners, including our partners at Fort Benning, our special operations, and we have one of the few Georgia Search and Rescue Task Forces right here in Columbus. That tractor trailer that you see there is housed at our Station 9. It is full of equipment for technical rescue, search and rescue operations that we can support during any significant disaster, and we provide that resource anywhere in the state of Georgia. As an organization, we are very heavily engaged in the community. We do a lot of community events. I just threw a couple up there on the slide for you. One of them is around Christmas time, we do a shop, drop, and roll event, where as an organization, we partner with the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Columbus, and we adopt about 100 kids last year and give them all Christmases that they wouldn't have otherwise. Take them shopping down and partner with our partners at Walmart and provide gift cards for them and take them shopping so they can provide resources and gifts for their family at Christmas time. In the fall, we paint the town pink. We are engaged in efforts to raise funds and awareness for cancer prevention, not only within our organization, but external to our organization. We're very engaged in that. In 2021, during the height of the pandemic, We still manage to have over 14,000 face-to-face contacts with our community. I suspect that as we emerge, hopefully from the pandemic, we will have a lot more contacts with our community, but that's what our community engagement piece does. On the horizon for us, what's on tap for us in the future? We are very engaged right now in our strategic planning process. We just developed, or we're just putting the finishing touches on our 5-year strategic plan as part of our accreditation efforts for our organization. In addition to that, we're developing some strategic alliances throughout the community. We established an Center for Innovation and Leadership a couple of years ago to bring in strategic partners around the community to help solve community problems. We as an organization, as the fire department, constantly get calls for things that quite aren't in our wheelhouse, but people expect us to manage. And so we're looking for strategic partners in the community to help us fulfill those needs in our community, and that's part of what that Alliance or Center for Innovation does. We're very engaged in collaborative efforts across the organization. One of the things that we're doing right now is we partnered with St. Francis to bring suicide prevention training to all of our personnel and to all of our public safety personnel in the region, not just within the fire department, but our police department, our sheriff's office, our colleges who have their own police departments, as well as our nursing partners at both hospitals here in Columbus. We provided that suicide prevention training this fall. We do a lot of those collaborative type of opportunities. We have very focused projects that we're engaged in. Certainly, recruitment and retention is one of those. We're in an environment today, unlike an environment that we have seen at any time in recent history in the fire service, where recruiting has become a challenge in public safety. I feel sorry for our folks, our friends in the police department. It's more of a challenge for them. But recruiting in public safety has become a challenge in today's environment. So we spend a lot of time and effort working with the school district. I know Dr. Lewis is here, and we partner with his team and his folks there. We're very appreciative of that partnership. So we have a lot of community partnerships. We're engaged in our community, and we're very blessed. I have to say that we're very blessed that we have great support across the community. And with that, I'd like to open the floor up to any questions. I know there's folks watching online. I don't know if we can receive those from online, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about our organization. And I can't see, so you're going to have to. We are currently, I'd say, we're probably in the upper 80s, probably close to 90%. We have a large number, about 37 personnel currently in training. Once those folks hit the field, we'll be in a much better shape. We're anticipating hiring, we have a recruit class that we anticipate hiring in July, August timeframe of about 17 personnel, which will bring us up to almost full staffing. We don't typically have a problem getting folks in the door. It's keeping them. Our training program is very rigorous. I have a really high standard for firefighters in Columbus Fire and EMS. If you're going to work here at this organization, the standard and the bar is set really high. And there's a lot of reason behind that. And so we sometimes lose personnel through our training process and attrition out, because in addition to the physical component, there's a very strong mental component as well. We expect our personnel to 1 hour be fighting a building fire, and 2 hours later be sliding a needle into an infant's arm upside down in a car. So we have a very rigorous training program for our folks. So sometimes we lose folks through that process. But right now I'd say high 80s, low 90s. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
You touched on the use of drones. How are you using drones in the community?
So we're very fortunate. We have drones. Our police department has drones, and our sheriff's office is now acquiring drones. We use drones a lot when we're on the river. Unfortunately, we have a large number of folks who enter the river who aren't very river safe, I'll put it that way. And so they wind up being stuck out in the river or washing down the river, and we have to go locate them and extract them. Sometimes we'll deploy the drones for that capability. We've also used drones at some of our structure fires. We had a significant hazmat fire early last year where the tank had exploded, and we wanted to get some visibility on top of the tank, and so we deployed the drone up on top of the tank to see what we were looking at there. So we had that capability. Some of our drones are unfortunately, they're kind of old, so we're looking to replace those and add an infrared capability as well, so that when we're searching for victims, whether they be lost in some of the woods, or we can provide that resource to our partner agencies outside that have more forested areas, we can help locate lost people as well. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned that your top 1% because of the accreditation and like ranked number 1 out of a 10 scale ranking.
Yes, sir.
I know that insurance rates, property insurance rates are lower as a result of that. Have you guys done some analysis to see, like if you went from 1 to 2, let's say, what the additional cost of insurance premiums would go to in the community?
Sure, that's a great question. And I apologize, I need to make sure I repeat these questions for the folks at home. So the question has to do with our insurance premiums and what the impact is there when we change our ISO rating. So our ISO rating is the best that it can possibly be. We're very fortunate in that regard. When you change from an ISO Class 1 to an ISO Class 2, there is a difference in your premium rating. However, for a homeowner, the premium rating, the difference is negligible. Where it really becomes important is for business owners, industrial and commercial properties. So a place like St. Francis or any of our large commercial properties here in town, when there's a change in that insurance rating, that premium is much more significant than you would notice in your home. Honestly, don't have a number. I would speculate, and I would be purely speculating because every insurance company is different how they treat ISO. But the percentage premium change in your home ownership rate would probably be less than 5% in that range. But when you get to the commercial and industrial range, it's probably a little bit higher. Good question. Yes.
Thank you, Chief, for sharing and serving. 2 questions. How are we as a city faring as it relates to compensation? And also, what is intentionally being done in regards to mental and emotional health of those persons serving in the fire department?
That's a great question. So as some of you may know, the city is engaged in a comprehensive pay study. That process is ongoing. We're probably about halfway, a little bit more than halfway through it right now. We anticipate the results of that pay study to be complete the second half of this year with hopefully a phased implementation or an implementation of some kind of the results of that pay study in 2023, excuse me. Currently, I would evaluate and say that our current public safety personnel, and I can't speak for all of government, but I can speak certainly for our department and public safety in general, we are below market, given what I've seen across the state of Georgia and in the Southeast. And I'm hoping the pay study will reflect that and engage opportunities to change that. I know our mayor and our city manager and our council are committed to that, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I expect a change there in 2023, and we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. In terms of support for our personnel, we are very engaged in that effort. We are bringing, like I mentioned, the partnership we have with St. Francis to bring some much-needed training in the area of suicide prevention for our personnel. We have stood up in the last year, or maybe last 2 years, a chaplaincy program within the fire department to support all of our personnel and to support our community. A lot of times when we go to, let's face it, we deal with tragedy a lot. And unfortunately, sometimes people in those worst circumstances don't have anybody to turn to. And so we want to be able to provide that resource in the chaplaincy program to them until they can get more sustainable support. So we have that for our personnel, but we also have that available for our community and for our partners as well. We are going to enhance that later this year with critical incident stress debriefing training that we're bringing in for all of our chaplains. We've opened that up to our public safety partners in law enforcement as well, because I'm a big believer in collaboration. I don't like to do things in a silo, so anything that we have that we can do to support our partners in law enforcement, we're going to try and do that.
Chief, thank you for being here for one thing. But the second question I had was, we have in the past experienced a shortage of ambulances.
Of what?
Ambulances.
Yes, sir.
And how are we prepared and fixed for the number of responders we have for that? I know that personnel is an issue there, but at the same time, just the number of ambulances we have on the street.
It is a challenge. We currently have, as I mentioned earlier, we have 12 ambulances. 6 of them belong to us, and each of our partners provides 3 additional ambulances most of the time. It is a challenge. I have made recommendations, and we are. Let me back up. We are in the midst of a kind of a comprehensive study of our EMS program overall in our EMS service delivery to the community, and we're looking at different ways to change our service delivery. One of the things we've launched within the past 2 months is an initiative called Columbus Correct Care. And the initiative is designed to provide the citizens of Columbus the right care at the right time from the right resource. And that may not always be the fire department. That may not always be an ambulance. That may be an SUV with a nurse. That may be an SUV with a mental health clinician. And so to answer your specific question, because the call volume, our call volume increases year over year, it's probably never going to go down unless we have a mass exodus of people from the city like Detroit saw a few years ago. Our call volume has increased ever since I've been here, and we're projected to increase again next year. And again, the vast majority of those calls are medical in nature, which really taxes our system. Throughout the COVID pandemic, we were really struggling because our hospitals were struggling with people flooding the ER, which compounds the challenges for us, and we've addressed a lot of those challenges. But the reality is we have to look to the future and figure out how we're going to address the call volume that's going to increase, because we're in a time where, quite honestly, our baby boomers are retiring out of the workforce, and those are the greatest utilizers of the medical system in the United States. And so we're looking at all avenues to evaluate how we can address that, in addition to putting more ambulances on the street. There is no plan today within the current budget, fiscal year 23, to put more ambulances on the street. We have 6 new I will say we have the council did give me 6 new ambulances last year. We are still waiting those. The supply chain, logistics supply chain, has been really, really problematic for our agency and causing a lot of delays and a lot of resources. But we're still waiting for those ambulances, and when we receive those, we'll deploy those and have a couple of good reserve ambulances. We're in the process of really updating our fleet. We've got great commitment and support from our council, mayor, and city manager to update our fleet, which is tired. And so I'm excited about that prospect. Other questions?
Chief,
Yes, sir.
I got a question for you. In a time of emergency, do you empty your stations or do you leave somebody behind just in case?
It depends on the call. So many of our stations are what we call multi-company stations. There are more than one asset there, either a ladder truck, an engine company, an ambulance, or maybe more than one. So if the call for service only requires one ambulance or one ladder truck or one engine, that other resource will stay put. I will tell you that a good percentage of our time, all of our ambulances are on the street, typically during the day, and depending on where you are at in the community, some of our stations, those ambulances don't come home. They're out all day and all night. So there are times in single company homes and single company stations where there's only one asset there, that station is empty. And so if anybody were to go knock on the door, there won't be anybody there. So that is certainly a probability and a possibility. But I get asked all the time, why do you send a fire truck to an ambulance call? Because we respond a fire truck with our ambulances on a large number of our calls. And the stark reality is our fire trucks are more available and respond on average 3 minutes faster than an ambulance can, because our ambulances are so busy in this community. So we have that resource and that capability. All of our personnel are EMTAs, which is Advanced Emergency Medical Technician Advanced, at least. And then we have about 100 paramedics in addition to that. So all of our capability, all of our assets have the capability to provide medical response support. And later this year, we'll be changing our service delivery model, and we'll put all of our paramedics on all of our fire trucks, and our ambulances will be staffed with emergency medical technicians. Good question. I want to thank you all very much for the opportunity. I will stay around to answer any additional questions. I appreciate, Ms. President, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and thank you very much.
Chief Scarpa, we really appreciate you taking your time. I feel like today you've really educated us on what the fire department and emergency services do, because it's way more than I imagined, and I appreciate you sharing that. And also, Daniel, thank you for being here, and thank you both for all that you do. And to commemorate your visit, we will place a brand new children's book in the Columbus Public Library with your name inscribed on it. So I'd like to remind everyone that we will have a replay of today's program on our Facebook page and also on YouTube. And I would like to re-welcome all of our visitors today. Thank you for being here. And you won't want to miss next week's program. We'll have Rotarian Fred Stepp with Alethea Digital. So remember to sign up for Career Day back in the back, and then also please see Jim wave so we know where you are, in the back to take your new photo. So until we meet again next week, let's continue to make a difference. That's loud, isn't it?